Douluo Dalu Volume 2, Chapter 10, The First Spirit Ring Ability, Part 1, and in a moment, he seemed to hear a clear and melodious crack. Immediately following, that hot current frenziedly dispersed, then again merging into a milky white stream. That originally winding little streamlet in a flash became a brook, kong flowing, trailing, the blazing agony already disappearing, only leaving a comfortable warmth. Success. Wild joy once again arrived. Tang San was familiar with this kind of breaking feeling. Tang San, that clearly was the feeling of mysterious heaven skills, first bottleneck splitting open, internal strength merging together with the spirit ring's power, becoming an even more formidable energy, within this extremely brief time. At full speed going around within his body's energy passages, revolving several circuits, slowly flowing into his dantian. Just as Tang San suspected, arriving within this world, his mysterious heaven skill had virtually formed a bizarre relationship with Spirit Master's spirit power. Mysterious heaven skills, every tier corresponded to a Spirit Master title. Obtaining this first spirit ring, he finally broke through the first tier mysterious heaven skill bottleneck. Of course, his current power in no way was as simple as only mysterious heaven skill entering the second tier. He still possessed the spirit strength unrelated to Tang Sect, as well as the ability produced by the first spirit ring. Absorbing the spirit ring brought about a kind of unfolding clear feeling that was impossible to describe in words, like floating to and fro high in the clouds, not subject to gravity, also like entering the pinnacle of extreme bliss. All over his whole body, 36,000 pores without exception stretched open, greedily respiring wonderful air. The fundamental change already made amazing changes occur in Tang San's body. Tang San as much as possible calmed his excited heart. Mysterious heaven skill under the aid of the spirit ring breaking through informed his future developing direction. He knew, regardless of how, his life in this world, he was probably unable to separate from the spirit again. Spirit power was exactly mysterious heaven skill internal strength. Internal strength also was exactly spirit power. His destiny would be to walk a spirit master's path. Of course, he would be classified as a Tang Sect spirit master. Just when Tang San slowly opened both eyes, the sky was already light. The new day brought vigorous vitality seemingly calling to his body. Tang San lowered his head to look at himself. He discovered, his body because of obtaining the spirit ring also seemed to have changed somewhat. His originally thin and small stature seemingly grew a bit taller, his shoulders also somewhat broader, on his skin even more a layer of jade-like luster. Between gestures, brimming with strength, he had a lithe feeling of comfort. Not needing painstaking experiments, he knew that not only his inner strength broke through the bottleneck, all parts of his body's functions had also substantially elevated under the influence of obtaining the 100-year Datura snake's spirit ring. Teacher. Regaining consciousness, Tang San first of all thought of Grandmaster. He was eager to tell Grandmaster that Grandmaster's spirit beast mimicry principle was a success. The whole merging process, although also enduring not a little agony, was without any feelings of conflict. Just when his gaze found Grandmaster, he couldn't help but be greatly taken aback. Grandmaster lay fallen on the ground, body seemingly already rigid, motionless. Around him and Grandmaster, realga powder surrounded them in a circle, situation the same as their previous campsite. Teacher, what happened? Tang San in his heart was greatly worried, hurriedly standing up, coming over to Grandmaster's side, helping his body up. Seeing Grandmaster's face, Tang San unconsciously blurted out, "Poison." Grandmaster's originally rigid face was surrounded by a sinister air, the whole body already breathing hard, body rigid, already lost feeling. How would teacher be poisoned? Raising the question, Tang San suddenly felt Grandmaster's body was somewhat abnormal, and hurriedly drew back his right arm's jacket sleeve. He saw Grandmaster's right arm was swollen to triple size compared to normal, skin stretched tight and turning bright purple. Fortunately, a cloth band was tied tightly on his upper arm, and clearly Grandmaster produced his own emergency treatment measures after being poisoned. Even though this way, under the circumstances, the majority of the poison would not spread, but he was still unconscious. One could see how potent this poison was. In his mind, a flash of light, and Tang San suddenly understood the cause for Grandmaster's poisoning. Before, when he and Grandmaster were escaping being killed by the Datura snake, Grandmaster's spirit Luo San Pao was bitten by the Datura snake, exactly bitten on Luo San Pao's right foreleg. At that time was recalled by Grandmaster very quickly. Beast spirits are one with their host. Even though Grandmaster's beast spirit was a variation, it was still like that. Spirit being poisoned is equivalent to the host also being poisoned. But Grandmaster wholeheartedly assisted him in absorbing the spirit ring, regardless of his own safety, waiting until after he entered cultivation state until his spirit power was unable to restrain the poison, so the poison spread. Comparatively speaking, in this regard tool spirits had the advantage. Tool spirits contaminated by poison would not influence the host's body. Fortunately, Grandmaster stopped the poison from spreading, otherwise I also would have no means. After Tang San felt for the strength of the pulse in Grandmaster's left hand, he secretly let out a breath. The poison had not yet attacked the heart, there was still time to save him. Coming from Tang Sect, regarding how to deal with poisoned wounds, Tang San was very clear. Right now, he was unable to not use flame whether or not it could attract spirit beasts, very quickly gathering some dry twigs and leaves from the surrounding, using a torch to ignite the pile, afterwards immediately tearing off Grandmaster's right sleeve, using the short sword Grandmaster gave him to dig a hole in the ground, afterward pouring out fresh water, and cleaning the sword blade. The campfire gradually flourished, after Tang San repeatedly roasted the short sword over the fire, hauling Grandmaster's body to the side of the little hole, letting his right hand hang down inside. Taking a deep breath, Tang San turned over the wrist, in 3 successive cuts, separately delimiting Grandmaster's pulse point, crook of the arm and armpit. Immediately, 3 streams of blackish-purple blood bringing a strong smell with a faint fragrance of tea spurted out, like 3 brooks flowing into the previously dug little hole. Part 2. Tang San's one hand pressed on Grandmaster's chest, urging the just now promoted mysterious heaven skill internal strength. His left hand on successive points sealed the 4 energy channels in Grandmaster's chest, preventing the poisonous vapor from spreading. Simultaneously, his right hand began to knead Grandmaster's chest, relying on internal strength to push the motion of qi and blood in Grandmaster's body, slowly pressing the poison to one place. Mysterious heaven skill could be regarded as Tang Sect's highest inner strength core method. In itself it had a very powerful effect for removing poison, and it certainly was not just a violent internal strength. Extremely exquisite, a trace of a thread penetrated inside Grandmaster's body, making sure to not leave behind any seed of future trouble. Undoing Grandmaster's jacket, Tang San carefully observed the dark qi around Grandmaster's body. Under the effect of mysterious heaven skill, the dark qi gradually converged, flowing in the direction of Grandmaster's right arm. Right now Tang San still had not undone the cloth on Grandmaster's arm. Poisoned blood flowing out, Grandmaster's swollen arm gradually shrank back, skin color gradually also becoming normal, Grandmaster's face revealing an expression of suffering, mouth also began to emit groans. As the flow of blackish-purple fresh blood gradually exhausted, fresh red blood began to emerge. Grandmaster's arm also already became somewhat pale. Tang San picked open that cloth on Grandmaster's arm, relying on internal strength at full speed to completely push out the last poison in one go, afterwards quickly sealing the blood circulation in Grandmaster's arm and tearing off several strips from his own clothes and wrapping the cuts. Previously he could not impatiently undo the cloth on Grandmaster's arm, because he feared Grandmaster's blood flow would be too much. After all, his poisoning had already not been brief. Poison dispelled, Tang San's face was already covered in sweat. Even though mysterious heaven skill entered the second tier, it still wasn't considered powerful, and using internal strength like this to assist expelling poison was most draining of internal strength and energy, and because of absorbing the spirit ring and enduring the energy he also felt somewhat emptied of strength. Tang San used clean water to clean up Grandmaster's arm, afterwards using soil to bury that little hole filled with poisoned blood. This could be considered as wholly completing the work. Following this, Grandmaster remained unconscious for a full 3 days, and in that time he had a constant fever. Tang San every day could only pour into him a little fresh water, and in order to let Grandmaster's body able to replenish some nourishment, he even cut down a tree to make a small bowl, using the brought dry meat with fresh water to cook some broth. Since this was spirit hunting forest, Tang San dared not move a step away from Grandmaster. Fortunately, their luck could be considered not bad. Although the occasional spirit beast passed by, for the most part those were 10-year spirit beasts, and their aggressive nature was also not very strong, and certainly did not bring any trouble to Tang San. How am I like this? Just when Grandmaster regained consciousness, it was already noon on the 4th day. His empty of power body could not put out a trace of strength. Grandmaster only found before him a blur. The sky spinning, earth turning feeling made him unable to find directions. Even raising his hands was strenuous. Teacher, you're conscious. Tang San, amazed, moved closer to Grandmaster's side. A precise practiced internal strength transmitted into Grandmaster's body. Under the aid of mysterious heaven skill, Grandmaster's vitality roused a bit, eyes also finally gradually focusing. Little San, I'm still alive. Grandmaster, astonished, looked at Tang San next to him. Tang San nodded, saying, Teacher, you're living very well. Only this time must perhaps rest for a long while. Grandmaster turned his head with difficulty, looking at his right arm. You saved me. Tang San scratched his head, saying, When I was little, Dad taught me simple methods to deal with poisoned wounds, so when I saw you unconscious, I could only give it a try. Trying once after all had some chance, doctoring a dead horse as if it was still alive. Cheeky, you calling teacher a horse? Grandmaster put on a slight smiling expression. Of course, with his originally rigid face added to the current paleness, this smiling expression of his was even more unsightly than crying. Living always was a glorious matter, even if it was the ambitious and proud all his life contributing to spirit research. Grandmaster, he also was no exception. Tang San laughed, saying, Teacher, you first rest, I will give you some hot broth. You wake up, then again rest several hours and you can eat some dry rations. We at an early hour should leave spirit hunting forest. The environment here is too lacking, and the air is also comparatively moist, harmful to your wound's recovery. Grandmaster seemed to suddenly think of something. Little San, did you succeed? To Grandmaster, his research theories were even more important than life. Tang San said with a small smile, Teacher, please be at ease. I succeeded. Look. While speaking, Tang San raised his right hand. Faint white light floated right now on the surface of his skin. Immediately following, deep blue color blue-silver grass thronged out from the center of the palm. A distinct ring of yellow light ascended from underfoot, centering on the body as it floated up and down. Precisely the outstanding characteristic of a first-ring spirit master. Previously, blue-silver grass width did not reach a half finger, but the current blue-silver grass width already became 3 fingers. The grass blade compared to before was also several times thicker, bearing an odd veined pattern. Counting 10 blue-silver grass at lightning speed spread out all around, grass blade tips lifting, just like 10 extra datura snakes hunting everywhere. The blue-silver grass did not at all have the datura snake's stench, but only had the faint tea fragrance, that intoxicating fragrance brimming with danger. In Grandmaster's eyes flickered an extremely moved radiance, and with difficulty resisting the excitement, he said, How is the toughness? Seeing is believing, Sir Tang San answered Grandmaster with action. Among the 10 blue-silver grass breaking away from his palm, one suddenly flew up, twining around a small tree as thick as an arm, the other end returning to Tang San's hand. His right hand pulled back strongly, and the small tree trunk immediately curved down, causing the blue-silver grass to stretch perfectly straight, but did not have the slightest indication of splitting. Good. This truly is great. It seems my judgment was completely correct. After blue-silver grass infused the datura snake spirit ring, it gained toughness. If my conjecture is not mistaken, and it should still have attached a Datura snake's toxicity. Only, what is its current ability? Part 3. A spirit. After obtaining the spirit ring, all abilities must undergo a process of variation to evolve. Different spirits with similar spirit rings evolve completely different abilities, and vice versa. Even if the spirit ring only is different in age, the abilities will still have great differences. Therefore, even though Grandmaster regarding spirit research already was considerably thorough, he was still unable to confirm what the resulting effect of Tang San obtaining this first spirit ring would be. Tang San said, "Grandmaster, these several days I used some weak 10-year spirit beasts to experiment. What you said is not incorrect. Blue-silver grass indeed inherited some of the Datura snake's poison nature, but without the deadly attack nature hypertoxicity, rather the paralyzing effect of the Datura snake's poison nature. But it must come into direct contact to have effect. The poison nature can't be considered very strong, but it very clearly has a restricting function. And blue-silver grass ability is binding. Depending on spirit power control, binding the enemy to a stop can render it unable to move." While speaking, Tang San, relying on spirit power, controlled his released blue-silver grass to put the ability to use. Seeing the more than 10 deep blue blades of grass simultaneously rise up from the underbrush, and in a flash twine around a thick tree trunk. The grass blades were striking out from a hovering stance, covering the area within 10 square meters. Being within this range, one would fundamentally be without ability to dodge. Instantly, the more than 10 blue-silver grass had already twined tightly around the big tree. Grandmaster's eye revealed a slight glitter of deep thought, as expected, a control system spirit master's characteristic. If you could have a powerful attack hand in concert with you, your spirit effect can be developed even more clearly. What is called a control system spirit master is just controlling the opponent's actions. This binding ability's effect is like that. In itself also adding the paralysis effect, only when the opponent is a 2 spirit ring existence surpassing you, otherwise it would be unable to struggle free of this binding ability. Little San, we succeeded. Speaking of spirits, Grandmaster at first was not like a severely injured person, both eyes radiating vigor, his tone indescribably excited. The greatest characteristic of this blue-silver grass ability was its unexpected nature. In Tang San's tests, within a range of 50 meters he could control blue-silver grass to attack from any place. Can't be guarded against, particularly within a forest with numerous plants, where blue-silver grass had even more cover. Tang San also cooked a pot of broth, furthermore chopping boiled meat and feeding some to Grandmaster. With something in his belly, Grandmaster's recovery rate rose, but they had no choice but to prepare to leave spirit hunting forest. Because of the food and drinking water they brought after this many days, there was already practically nothing left. This was still so under circumstances where Tang San had been as sparing as possible. Grandmaster still had not recovered the strength to move about, therefore he was carried on Tang San's back out of spirit hunting forest. Because the difference between these two people's statures was too big, all the while Grandmaster's both legs dragged on the ground. Relying on his surpassing strength and internal strength, Tang San, under Grandmaster's directions, step by step carried Grandmaster out of spirit hunting forest, riding a carriage to return to Nuoding Primary Spirit Master Academy. Throughout, regardless of when Tang San cared for Grandmaster or in the process of carrying him out of the forest, Grandmaster from start to finish did not speak a word of thanks, but the gaze he looked at Tang San with already no longer only seemed to see a substitute disciple for fulfilling his own vain hope, more like a feeling that should appear in Tang Hao's eyes. Teacher for a day, father for a lifetime. These 8 simple words were branded even more deeply in Grandmaster's heart. Undergoing several days of recuperation with Tang San's meticulous care, by the time they returned to the academy, Grandmaster could already with difficulty walk supported on Tang San's arm. However, in Tang San's estimation, Grandmaster this time receiving a poisoned wound caused his constitution great injury. In order to completely recover, he still must not walk for at least a month's time. Grandmaster was only an honored visitor at Nuoding Primary Spirit Master Academy, with connections to the chairman true, but without a relative. In the near future, Tang San naturally must be in charge of caring for his teacher. This bit he long ago already knew well. Even on the road every day he made assorted plans on how he should care for Grandmaster. At just this moment in the morning students started class, and within the Nuoding Academy everything seemed very peaceful. Tang San, supporting Grandmaster, returned directly to his room, letting him rest on the bed. Finally returned, "Teacher, you please also properly rest. For this time you must properly recuperate, be sure not to overwork. If you have some business, you immediately instruct me to go." Grandmaster quietly nodded, and said, "I didn't expect to this time still be able to barely escape from mortal danger. My body recovering doesn't matter, but your cultivation cannot be interrupted. Meanwhile, you still must go settle one matter. Little San, take from the bookshelf on your left in the third row the second book from the left and come give it to me." "Okay." Tang San, according to Grandmaster's instructions, took out a thick book. What surprised him was the title on this book. Grandmaster, without taking the book from his hands, said, "In this book is recorded some of my research on cultivating spirit power. Although spirit power is cultivated by meditation circulating spirit power itself, among this are very many techniques. What kind of movement route is generally easy to promote strength? What kind of spirits under what kind of circumstances are best suited to cultivation? All details are recorded here. At this time I am unable to personally direct you, but you definitely cannot relax." "Yes," Tang San respectfully replied. Although he still had not opened the book to read, in his heart was an indescribable shock. Undergoing this time's spirit ring breakthrough, he regarding spirits could be considered to have an overall comprehension, and according to his understanding, what was called spirit power was actually a kind of internal strength. Only the vast majority of people's cultivation methods are all simply operating them without pattern. Part 4. Tang San possessed mysterious heaven skills cultivation method. In the future, cultivation rate would certainly be even better than the majority of spirit masters. But hearing what Grandmaster said, he who studied cultivation methods should be similar to cultivating internal strength circulation route. Able to research this one step, how much effort did Grandmaster have to expend? One must know, mysterious heaven skill would be the result of countless generations of Tang Sect ancestors shedding their heart's blood for experience. Grandmaster was only one person. In addition, you go right now to Nuoding City's Spirit Hall. On the way, ask anyone for its location. It's near the city center. You go there to conduct the Spirit Master authentication. It tests your spirit power condition, and in addition it also counts as official Spirit Hall registration, so afterwards you can receive a stipend every month. You need not continue being a working student. Tang San carefully put the book Grandmaster gave him within 24 moonlit bridges. He did not know what 24 moonlit bridges it was made of, but it possessed extremely tough and pliable elasticity. Contracting to its smallest, Tang San with this kind of child's stature could bind it around the waist, but if extended, even if it was a burly fellow with 4 chi around the waist, they could still carry it, and all along the belt's width would be constant. Right now, Tang San wore the Nuoding Primary Spirit Master Academy uniform. On his waist he also wore the belt Grandmaster gave him. The whole person's Jing Qi Shen strength was already completely different from when he arrived at the academy, just what is called, clothes make the man. Although he could not say he was handsome, looking neat and tidy still gave people a somewhat fresh and cool feeling. "Teacher, then you first rest a moment, I'll leave. At noon I will come back and bring you food." Leaving Grandmaster's room, Tang San just heard the bell ringing the end of class. Nuoding Primary Spirit Master Academy class period was not at all long, and until noon classes there was still half a double-hour break for meals. As it happened to be end of class, Tang San decided to first return to the dormitory and greet his roommates, telling them he had returned and would go out again. But, just when he returned to the dormitory, he was surprised to discover that within the dormitory was completely empty, without a shadow of a person. His bedding was still the same as when he left, put together with Xiao Wu's bedding, the middle separated by cloth bundles. Not one had returned after class. Tang San couldn't help but in his heart feel suspicious. Turning around and leaving the dormitory, stepping out on the sports ground. Right in front of the school building, students walked out in twos and threes coming towards the dormitory. Just when Tang San prepared to first go to Spirit Hall to undergo Spirit Master authentication as Grandmaster instructed, faintly he heard among those compared to him marked as upper students as if saying the two words, working student. Hurriedly focusing, by way of internal strength, he distinguished the source and listened attentively to the content of their conversation. Those working students really are overrating themselves, to actually challenge the 6th year's boss Xiao. I estimate at class tomorrow it will be difficult to see a shadow of a working student. Still can't tell, the working students dared challenge our academy's little overlord also with a bit depending on, they say, a new first-year working student, a little girl who is very fierce. Having all the working students call her Xiao Wu Ji, this time's matter seems exactly like her taking the initiative to provoke. This time their stake is also absolutely sufficient. If Boss Xiao wins, afterwards he possess all the working students as his dogs, and if the working students win here, then afterwards that Xiao Wu Ji is our whole academy's Xiao Wu Ji. These working students are definitely courting death. In what respect can a first-year little girl be capable of being fierce? Boss Xiao is one of few among our academy's 6-year students who has reached Spirit Master realm. It looks as if Boss Xiao later will have a pack of servants. Hearing the words of the higher grade students, Tang San's heart immediately tightened. Although he had not known Xiao Wu long, regarding Xiao Wu's nature he still had a certain understanding. The temper of this looking like a fair and tender little girl was in no way as gentle and soft as her appearance, on the contrary rather rude and unreasonable. In addition with what Wang Sheng preciously told him about working students were being bullied, he could confirm that these two older students' words were certainly genuine. Tang San also was one of the working students. He naturally could not watch his roommates be bullied. Two seniors, may one ask where Boss Xiao and those working students are? Tang San greeted the two students. The two students were clearly dumbfounded a moment, and the left side senior student said, "What? Little junior, you also want to go stick a foot in? Boss Xiao has enough manpower. By your appearance you should be 2nd or 3rd year. I advise you to still leave out. To accidentally be injured could be bad." From Tang San's neat clothes and the looking like it was high-quality belt on his waist, the two students obviously could not guess at his working student status. "Senior, I only want to go have a look at a distance." Tang San naturally could not make clear that he was part of the working students. They should duel in the woods on the mountain behind the academy. Obtaining accurate information, Tang San took off, running towards the rear side of the academy. What is called the mountain behind the academy was certainly not within Nuoding Academy. Just outside the academy rear gate is a small hill, apart from the academy. Tang San saw nobody around, so he immediately launched Ghost Shadow Perplexing Trace and ran full out towards the hill. The woods were very quiet, but not at all tranquil, on the contrary rather abundantly an atmosphere of swords drawn and bows bent. Apart from Tang San all the working students stood behind Xiao Wu, and facing them were all told more than 20 higher grade students formed up in ranks. Led by one person wearing Nuoding Primary Spirit Master Academy uniform, large stature, tall and straight, although his face remained childish, he already had a bit adult appearance. It looked like in body he was at least half again as large when compared to Xiao Wu. His features also counted as handsome and spirited. Only the contemptuous and disdainful expression on his face sabotaged the harmony. "Little girl, right now there is still time for you to repent. Of course, I do not mind having a pet rabbit. Your spirit is rabbit, isn't that right?" Part 5. Xiao Wu's expression did not lose a bit to the opposite side and was similarly disdainful, only her disdain harmoniously arranged her soft and fair face to somehow have a cute appearance, pointing at the opposite side saying, "Boss Xiao, you scared?" Scared of afterwards being my little brother. Ha ha. Boss CO feigned an elegant big laugh. How could I be scared? I say, that Wang Sheng, have all you working students lost your minds, to actually find this kind of little girl to stir up a fight with me? Really funny. Little girl, you still haven't asked who I, Boss CO, am. In this Nuoding city, if I walk from east to west, there is nobody who dares hinder me, not to even mention this academy. CO Wu was clearly already rather impatient. Less nonsense, let's start. You say how we fight. Boss CO's eyes narrowed, revealing a somewhat evil expression. Rest assured, I won't bully you. Don't you have 10 people here? Then we also will only use 10 people. Sending out in turns, those sent out only need to win, then can continue fighting the next opponent. Up until all the people on one side are defeated. Able to become the boss among students, this Boss CO could not be a rash person. On the contrary, he was very clever. Although on the surface CO Wu looked like she could be no threat. But this Boss CO also did not fight Wang Sheng for only 1 or 2 days, and of Wang Sheng's temperament he still had a clear understanding. If this little girl before him did not have some ability, how could Wang Sheng so easily recognize her as the working student's representative? But how powerful could this little girl be? On his side were all higher grade students, and each one's actual strength was not weak. The working students' side only had one Wang Sheng that still could be considered having some ability. In addition to this little girl, at most they had only 2 people, that's all. Letting the younger brothers under his leadership completely grind him to death, he would not even need to come out himself, and this fight was already won. Seemingly a fair method for dueling. Was it truly fair? Wang Sheng naturally also realized Boss CO's plan, but before he could open his mouth, CO Wu already readily spoke. Fine, we'll settle it like this. Come, whoever is first of you, come out. By now, it was already too late for Wang Sheng to prevent CO Wu's agreement. The followers of Boss CO pursed their lips, and a large higher grade student immediately walked out. Wang Sheng gritted his teeth. CO Wu Ji, let me go first. He was naturally familiar with this higher grade student on the other side. This fellow was in the same class as him, and Wang Sheng had fought him many times. Every time the outcome was miserable. This student's spirit was a staff, but not just a simple staff. CO Wu, appearing very like a big sister leader, nodded, agreeing to Wang Sheng's request. Wang Sheng drew a deep breath, stepping up between the 2 sides. Lu Long, come. On Lu Long's hand yellow brilliant light rose, and a 2-meter-tall long staff winked into his grasp, a defeated opponent. Wang Sheng, after I beat you today you won't stand up for days, or my name isn't Lu. Wang Sheng still did not answer, but CO Wu behind him already smiling said, then if you lose, it's fine to call you Withered Willow. Lu Long's facial expression became cold, and without uttering a sound, he very quickly moved forward a step, the long staff in his hands immediately thrusting up, descending straight to smash Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng's body shone equally bright with spirit power light, and with a tiger's roar, without dodging, raising both arms crossed, blocked the other party's long staff. With a muffled peng sound, Wang Sheng grunted, immediately retreating 2 steps. Both arms flooding spirit power turned over, both hands grabbing for the opponent's long staff. Even with spirit power protection, in this first contact the opponent's long staff already left bloody marks on his arms. Bruising was hard to avoid. Lu Long's mouth twitched. You still have a short memory. This is my spirit. Light shimmering, the part of the long staff Wang Sheng held abruptly disappeared. Immediately afterward the long staff's previous point that had just crossing Wang Sheng's arms, all of a sudden thrust at Wang Sheng's stomach. His body tumbled backwards. Wang Sheng's fighting determination need not be doubted. His strength was also significantly higher than his opponent, but unfortunately he was at the disadvantage of still being unable to obtain a spirit ring. Unable to undergo spirit adding, although under the aid of spirit power strength increased, agility was insufficient. Encountering this kind of long staff spirit using adversary, even if the other party used a 1 kun long and 1 kun powerful characteristic. When fighting, he completely lacked the power to strike back. His body shot up, a tiger's roar yet again rising, but very quickly his body was already once again whipped back by the long staff. However, Wang Sheng could also be considered to have rough skin and thick meat. Normally taking many beatings, his ability to resist and fight back must also be more powerful compared to ordinary students. Although in a completely disadvantageous position, the opponent wanting to make him lose fighting ability also was not a simple matter. Before Xiao Wu and Tang San arrived at Nuoding Academy, the working students were relying on him alone to protect them. Without a little ability, he would long ago be bullied to death by others. Wang Sheng is still too impulsive. With frontal confrontation, he cannot approach the body, and only by approaching the body can he defeat the opponent. When Xiao Wu's brows were creasing greatly, a low voice suddenly rose by her ear. Inclining her head to look, her beautiful big eyes couldn't help but reveal a pleasantly surprised light. "Tang San, you're back." Reaching Xiao Wu's side was exactly Tang San. Turning to the mountain behind the academy, he saw this scene in the woods on the side, and instantly without a sound he quietly reached Xiao Wu's side. As his stature was not tall, nobody on Boss Xiao's side had even taken notice of his appearance. Tang San looked at Xiao Wu, thinking to say something, but refrained. Xiao Wu caught his expression of wanting to say something but stopping. "What? Want to say I'm impulsive too?" Tang San shook his head, saying, "We working students cannot always be bullied by people, and this way of fighting with student bosses should also be regarded as one effort always settled. You acted correctly. Only, you should have waited until returned before raising a challenge to them. This way the certainty is also a bit bigger." Douluo Dalu Volume 2, Chapter 11. Xiao Wu, so you really are a rabbit. Part 1. Xiao Wu glared at Tang San. Recalling the last time she was mercilessly hit with stones, she was filled with anger. Wait, what? Wait, who knew when you would return? Everyone bullying us. What that son of a bitch Boss Xiao said about letting me be his pet rabbit. If I could still put up with that, my name wouldn't be Xiao Wu. Tang San frowned, in his heart pondering, this how big a child had this kind of dirty idea. It seems, he really must teach them a lesson. Let them know working students are not good at being taken advantage of. Thinking like this, his fingers dragged across his waist, gaze changing direction to the battleground. By now, a large area of Wang Sheng's body was already purple. With unceasing tiger roars, his spirit power was already becoming weaker and weaker, and his opponent, without being hit by him once, seemed like a cat playing with a mouse. Wang Sheng's attack pattern still was too single-minded. The spirit power he took advantage of nearly exhausted. He launched a last offensive, approaching 2 steps, once again facing Lu Long pouncing. This time he already made a firm resolution, even if he was brutally beaten by the other party again, to give the opponent something to remember. Lu Long and Wang Sheng coming into contact also wasn't only once or twice. He naturally could not fail to see his goal. Watching Wang Sheng pounce, his facial expression also became imposing, brandishing the long staff in his hands. In succession 3 staff blows smashed at Wang Sheng's head and both shoulders. As long as Wang Sheng this arrow at the end of its flight was beaten back, he could not again launch a decent attack. But at this time, surprisingly, Lu Long felt like both his hands holding the staff were seemingly stung by a mosquito, and the attack he sent suddenly dulled. His attack was originally considered good, but right now when dulled it immediately revealed a flaw. The first hit naturally struck Wang Sheng's head, but Wang Shen stubbornly resisted and pounced onward, causing his last 2 hits to fall in thin air. With a battle spirit master possessing a beast spirit close to the body, with regard to tool spirit masters using long weapons, that absolutely was a devastating attack. Even if Lu Long's strength was higher compared to Wang Sheng's, the result would still have been this way. Peng! Wang Sheng's tiger claw clapped Lu Long on the head, and his entire person flew up from the slap. Immediately following, his body turned upside down, and his right leg was caught at once and swung like a tiger tail whip heavily onto his back. He ruthlessly smashed to the ground. Lu Long could not have resisting ability as good as Wang Sheng. His spirit power was all in the long staff. Its defensive power was not at all remarkable, and after Wang Sheng's 2 attacks he was collapsing. Just as Lu Long heavily struck the ground, he was knocked unconscious. Wang Shen excitedly roared up at the sky, seemingly letting out these several years of resentment. Boss Xiao was at first calmly and easygoing watching Lu Long make fun of Wang Sheng, but the spectacle's circumstances suddenly taking a turn for the worse immediately caused him great shock. One must know, Lu Long among his subordinates was ranked 3rd in strength. If he did not already possess the first spirit ring, he also could not guarantee he could win against Lu Long. Xiao Wu bantering said, "Withered Willow, sure enough is a withered willow, really can't endure one hit. Boss Xiao, what do you say?" Boss Xiao waved a hand, letting other subordinates urgently drag Lu Long off for treatment. They were only primary Spirit Master Academy students. Relying on that bit of spirit power still would not take a life. The first one counts as our loss. Ling Feng, you're up. The second dispatched by Boss Xiao was a thin and small higher-grade student, small nose and small eyes, figure so slender nobody could see he is 12 years old. On the contrary, more like he was in the same age group as Xiao Wu and Tang San. Call back Wang Sheng. I'm up, Tang San said in a low voice by Xiao Wu's ear. In Xiao Wu's view also the matchup wasn't bad. He naturally noticed this second opponent to enter the arena was an agility-type spirit scholar, just in time to restrain Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng's previous spirit power had also depleted greatly. He would without a doubt lose. Wang Sheng, you return. Leave this to Little San. You can take a rest. Wang Sheng right now still had not completely recovered from the previous excitement over defeating Lu Long, when hearing Xiao Wu's voice and discovering Tang San had already returned at some unknown time. He knew his circumstances. Although he defeated Lu Long, he truly did not have the strength for another fight. He also knew, if not for Tang San stealthily shooting out 3 small pebbles and restricting Lu Long's attack, how could he also obtain the first victory? You're a working student. Ling Feng looked at Tang San, his eyes revealing a hesitant expression. Tang San only nodded in reply, please begin. Although Ling Feng's stature was thin and small, it would be a bit taller compared to the first-year Tang San's height. This was a quick fight related to which of both sides could become student boss. He also no longer thought much of it. After again giving a look at Tang San's belt, leapt up, nimbly vaulting overhead, both arms extended, unexpectedly gliding 2 meters, pouncing towards the top of Tang San's head. Beast spirit, Tang San saw in a glance what the opponent's spirit was. These several days Grandmaster instructed him could not be a waste. This Ling Feng was an agility-type battle spirit master. His beast spirit should be a flying animal. From his neither strong nor fierce exterior nor attack pattern, it should not be a raptor. Then, it should be a swallow or crow-type animal. Watching the other side pouncing at him, Tang San remained motionless, seemingly treating the other party as if he fundamentally did not exist. Ling Feng's speed was very quick. Among 6th-year students, by speed acclaimed as the first person. He was Boss Xiao's sworn follower, and his figure was also extremely dexterous. Watching the soon-reaching Tang San in front, suddenly, his body unexpectedly flipped again, both arms flapping beneath, force changing direction, arriving behind Tang San, meanwhile brandishing both arms chopping towards the 2 sides of Tang San's neck. Until Ling Feng turned over on top of his head, Tang San did not move at all, confronting the opponent's unknown ability. To not change his response 10,000 times was the best choice. Part 2. If it was before obtaining the first spirit ring, perhaps Tang San still could not have been this arrogant. But since obtaining the first spirit ring, his agility, strength, reaction, all natural abilities had leapt up. Tang Sect disciples' keenest abilities are senses and all kinds of reaction. Agility was also an advantage. When comparing agility, who could he fear? Ling Feng's figure transforming in midair must be an abrupt nature. Seeing Tang San, only a first or second year student, in his heart he also was somewhat belittling, planning a subduing attack to immediately force Xiao Wu to fight. But, just as both his palms were close to joining together, about to close on Tang San's neck, Tang San moved. A phoenix nod, just enough to dodge away from Ling Feng's both hands. Following the upper body bending forward, Tang San's right leg as if snapping swung up fiercely behind him. In the whole process, he basically did not turn his head to look. Quiet as a sleeping child, moving like a fleeing hare, Tang San by this bit deduced the perfect moment, and in a flash erupted in speed that among both sides watching the battle only a few could see clearly. Tang San's heel closely connected with Ling Feng's chin. Ling Feng performed a third mid-air flip, and afterwards still continuously kept spinning. With a peng sound, he heavily tumbled several meters, stepping in Lu Long's footsteps, immediately fainting. His jaw was already dislocated by Tang San's kick. This was still under circumstances where Tang San did not use internal strength, otherwise this one kick could have at least shattered his chin. A satisfactory reverse flying snap kick, a type of fundamental wushu leg technique, fitting Tang San's sharp feeling, in a moment rapidly dispatching the opponent effectively. The higher-grade students on Boss Xiao's side practically simultaneously stared wide-eyed. They were fundamentally incapable of believing that what happened before their eyes was all fact. Ling Feng, who among their group, in actual strength was second only to Boss Xiao, confronting that looking like only a first or second-year student, could be knocked out by one kick, to the extent that even his most expert attack did not at all have time to reach. Boss Xiao muttered, "Fuck, must the heavens change? How are the current plebs this ferocious?" Since hearing the sound of Ling Feng hitting the ground, Tang San slowly withdrew the right leg raised high behind him, coolly saying, "One down." Boss Xiao was shocked. Xiao Wu on the working student's side was in her heart equally astounded. She had fought many times with Tang San, and right now again seeing him fight, she clearly realized Tang San had advanced not a little, and she also realized, Tang San entering a fighting state seemed to be different from him at peaceful times. At ordinary times Tang San looked like only a mild little child, but in a fight, his fighting became extremely swift and fierce. Wang Sheng, without paying attention to the pain all over his body, watching Ling Feng fly off from one kick by Tang San, raised a big laugh of schadenfreude. "How's that, Boss Xiao, convinced or not? Our Tang San didn't even use spirit power. I see you still got to admit defeat. Leave out suffering the pain." Boss Xiao walked out with a somber face. After 2 consecutive defeats, he already reached a time with no choice but to enter the arena. He asked himself who on this side apart from him also could compare to Ling Feng's power. If he could not immediately retrieve the low morale, there would be no need to fight the remaining duels. By using a swift and fierce method to alone defeat this kid before him, and again defeating Xiao Wu, he could save face. Boss Xiao looked coldly at Tang San. By now the contemptuous and disdainful expression on his face had already disappeared, replaced by dignity. Xiao Chen Yu, 6th-year student, Spirit, Wolf. 11th ranked first-ring Battle Spirit Master. Announcing his spirit and rank was a kind of show of respect to the opponent. While speaking, Xiao Chen Yu's entire body emitted blackish-green light. Within the blackish-green glimmer, his body's muscles began to swell, both eyes gradually becoming a pale green color, both arms slowly lifting, claws forward, talons becoming sharper. A white spirit ring rose up from underfoot, precisely the appearance of spirit body enhancement. Xiao Chen Yu as student boss, right now displayed his clever part. How many in Nuoding Academy could not know what his spirit was, but the Tang San who confronted him was different. To his point of view, Tang San's spirit right now was still a mystery. First announcing his own spirit was exactly for the purpose of letting him know what spirit this Tang San he was about to fight had. In this way, he would also be able to plan somewhat. Tang San had heard Grandmaster speak of this announcing spirit custom. only when one would not spare the opponent a glance, not fearing that the other party would forever become a mortal enemy, when confronting the other side announcing the spirit, like all must announce their spirits, expressing mutual respect. Learning skill by exchanging pointers. Tang San, first-year working student, spirit, blue silver grass. 11th ranked first ring tool spirit master. When Tang San announced his spirit was blue silver grass, behind Xiao Chen Yu, the higher grade students practically simultaneously roared with laughter. Of the nervous expression on their faces there was immediately nothing left, even to the extent of not hearing Tang San announcing his rank. Blue silver grass was a useless spirit. This was long ago already completely universally acknowledged on the continent. Even if Tang San's own strength was not weak, the disparity of spirits still caused them to fundamentally not need to worry highly as before that boss Xiao could lose. You just now said, how high was your rank? Xiao Chen Yu could not be as negligent as those followers of his, because the clamor behind made him unable to quite hear Tang San announcing his rank. 11th rank, first ring tool spirit master. While speaking, faint white light rose from Tang San's body. Lifting his right hand, faint blue silver grass grew from the center of his palm. Following a wave of his right hand, blue silver grass drifted away underfoot. A bright yellow spirit ring rose up around Tang San from underfoot, floating regularly up and down around his body. The appearance of the yellow spirit ring, as if it was a heavy slap at those higher grade students' mouths, immediately froze the laughter, some even gaping wide, looking Tang San like he was a freak. 100-year spirit ring, gasped Xiao Chen Yu. Part 3. White represented a 10-year spirit ring, yellow represented a 100-year spirit ring. The spirit ring differing by one level, under conditions where both sides had the same rank spirit power, this effect could be decisive. How could this be? The spirit ring appearing over Tang San's body could be said to overturn these students' understanding of the opponent's spirit. First year stood for only 6 and 7-year-olds grade, a first year's cultivation reaching spirit master realm. This had never happened in the entire history of Nuoding Primary Spirit Master Academy. Let alone his spirit also being a known useless spirit blue silver grass. Boss, waste him, he only has a blue silver grass. How fierce can a spirit ring make him anyway? A higher grade student couldn't help but say. Idiot, shut up, Xiao Chen Yu roared, interrupting his subordinate's words. Only a blue silver grass. Xiao Chen Yu thought in his heart that it absolutely was not that simple. Blue silver grass was beyond doubt a useless spirit, but a blue silver grass that had reached the spirit master realm was a bit different. And also on his body was a 100-year spirit ring. This he would be fundamentally unable to obtain on his own, and since he had people able to assist him in obtaining a 100-year spirit ring, and furthermore help him cultivate to the spirit master realm, then how big of an influence could be behind this first-year kid before him? Xiao Chen Yu's father was Nuoding City's castellan, otherwise he too could not be this arrogant at the academy, including teachers very few could go against him. Since childhood seeing his father's various acts of officialdom, he was also more or less tainted by some of the air of politics, therefore he first of all thought of Tang San's background. His father had 1,000 times instructed him, 10,000 times warned him, that in this world, some great clans absolutely must not be offended. Even compared to the imperial household, they were still more terrible. The imperial household should still have some scruples regarding reputation, but those great clans fundamentally did not need it. Provoking him brought down calamity. You really are a working student? Xiao Chen Yu couldn't help but ask. Tang San coolly nodded, after bringing out the spirit ring. The feeling like having his whole body filled with strength made his blood boil. Right now he also wanted to find an opponent to properly measure his strength against. Checking what level his strength had actually reached after the fundamental change. Get on with it. Right now already reaching, an arrow fitted to the bowstring cannot avoid being discharged. Level, Xiao Chen Yu in his heart kept in mind. Even if he won over this first-year working student before him, he absolutely could not injure him. If speaking of Ling Feng's pounce as nimble, Then, Xiao Chen Yu's pounce was explosively strong. Since he possessed the first spirit ring, his power was fundamentally uncomparable to Wang Sheng's capabilities, even though Wang Sheng's spirit was the king of animals. With his spirit on a lower rank, he was still by far inferior to Xiao Chen Yu. Confronting Xiao Chen Yu's pounce, Tang San was as leisurely and carefree as when he did not respond to Ling Feng. Possessing a spirit ring and without spirit ring are two absolute concepts. Xiao Chen Yu firmly threw himself forward, the spirit power leaking out from his body already enveloped a 3-square-meter range around Tang San's body, and this was a charge with absolute strength, fundamentally without any technique. Just looking to use force against force. Force meeting force. Then come on. Although power was not at all Tang Sect disciples' expertise, just now Tang San thought to have a look at what level his mysterious heaven skill had actually reached. Instantly, gathering skill in both palms, slowly pushing out his chest. Meeting Xiao Chen Yu's wolf claws. The subordinates of Xiao Chen Yu by now all already wore triumphant smiles on their faces. What 100-year spirit ring? This idiot used his hands to meet Xiao Chen Yu's wolf claws. That simply was courting death. They had personally seen Xiao Chen Yu after spirit body enhancement relying on the strength of the pair of claws to grab and crush chunks of stone. Xiao Chen Yu's hands were much bigger compared to Tang San. He in his heart actually hesitated. Should he use the strength of his claws or not? He believed that relying on the power of his claws, he certainly could smash Tang San's palms to pieces. This would also be considered ending the competition. But doing so, would the people behind him? Charging so fast, Xiao Chen Yu, without waiting to think clearly, both his claws and Tang San's palms slammed together. With a muffled peng sound, as blackish-green and white-colored light shone brightly, a circle of air burst out and stirred the air current by the feet of the surrounding crowd of spectators. Tang San stood there absolutely still with feet not perpendicular nor parallel, Xiao Chen Yu's upper body in a flash, after the shock fell backwards. Practically subconsciously, Xiao Chen Yu's wolf claws already struck at Tang San's hands. Losing to the other side in spirit power caused him such shock and fury simultaneously that he already forgot his apprehension. But something occurred that caused Xiao Chen Yu even more shock. Just when his wolf claws grabbed at Tang San's both hands, he clearly felt that Tang San's both hands were as hard as iron. No matter how he used his strength, he was unable to shift them an iota. Immediately following, Tang San's hands separated, forcibly taking him out from within his wolf claws, turning his hands to knead at Xiao Chen Yu's wrists, not letting him retreat from shock like that. Both hands pulling back the former bully's figure, his right shoulder directly ramming against Xiao Chen Yu's lower abdomen. Xiao Chen Yu's big body flew up from that direct strike, tumbling away more than 3 meters. Xiao Chen Yu's underlings were only a moment ago preparing to cheer, seeing their boss tumble away. This time, the expression in their eyes looking at Tang San was thoroughly changed. Was this kid still a human? The lustrous jade slowly receding from both hands, trying out if his mysterious heaven skill internal strength would be greater than the opponent's 11th ranked spirit power. Tang San coolly said, "I'm still busy and have no time to play with you, so I will end it like this. Blue-silver grass, bind." Xiao Chen Yu had just a moment ago shot up from the ground. Tang San's single strike without going full out, and in addition to his spirit body enhancement, his defensive power was without mistake considerable, and so received no injury, just in time to hear Tang San's words. More than 10 thick blue-silver grass completely without warning suddenly surged up from under his feet, spiraling up, without waiting for Xiao Chen Yu to react, already firmly bound both his legs. What is this? Xiao Chen Yu turned pale with fright, struggling with all his strength, but since being upgraded that blue-silver grass was extremely tough, regardless of how he used his strength he could not struggle free. Part 4. Tang San advanced step by step towards Xiao Chen Yu. Don't try it. You can't struggle free. My first spirit ring was a datura snake, therefore, my blue silvergrass has the Datura snake's toughness. Of course, it also has a bit of the Datura snake's venom. If you feel you still have more fighting strength, I don't mind letting you sample the taste of the Datura snake's venom. Oh, I should mention, I don't have an antidote. There were also more than 10 blue silver grass rising behind Tang San, the blades of grass suspended behind his back, as if they were more than 10 Datura snakes selecting people to bite. A feeling of fear began to appear all over those higher-grade students. Some of Xiao Chen Yu's underlings were quickly retreating uncontrolled. Even if they had not encountered a Datura snake, they had absolutely heard of it. Who would be willing to come into contact with this kind of horror snake venom? Don't use snake venom. I admit defeat. Even though Xiao Chen Yu was the boss among students, he was after all only 12 years old, and equally also could have childish fears. For a time already he was completely confused. Actually, although Tang San's blue-silver grass was poisonous, it was after all only the first spirit ring. What was absorbed was also not even a more formidable Datura snake, therefore the attached poison nature only had a paralyzing effect, nothing more. Certainly not a fatal hypertoxicity. But how could Xiao Chen Yu dare use his own body to test that? The blue-silver grass quietly vanished from Xiao Chen Yu's legs, and on Tang San's face was revealed the small gentle smile familiar to the working students. Since you already admitted defeat, then follow what you and Xiao Wu previously agreed on. Xiao Chen Yu dully looked at Tang San. Then I should recognize you as boss or recognize her. What he still did not believe was that Xiao Wu's strength was able to exceed Tang San's. A 6-year-old spirit master, this already surpassed his imagination. Tang San said with a slight smile, "Of course Xiao Wu is your boss. I can't win against her. Otherwise, Room 7's room senior would be me, not her." Ah, Xiao Chen Yu's mouth opened in an O shape, his heart saying, "You're already this fierce, and she compared to you is still more terrible. You really are working students, really only 6 years old." Xiao Wu unhurriedly walked up by Tang San's side, clapping his shoulder, adopting a big sister leader appearance. "Little San's display was not bad, you've worked hard." Tang San laughed, saying, "Teacher still left me some matters to attend, the remaining business you sort out yourself. Afterwards you can be the Academy's supreme sister." Xiao Wu smiling thumped Tang San's shoulder at once. "Fine, you go, I'll handle the rest." Finished speaking, her gaze shifted to Xiao Chen Yu. "What? You're still not convinced? Fine, I'll introduce myself once. I'm Xiao Wu, first-year working student, spirit, rabbit, 12th rank first ring battle spirit master." Let alone Xiao Chen Yu, including the still not lingering Tang San, was shocked. He also right now just realized Xiao Wu was unexpectedly equally a spirit master, and also compared to him 1 rank higher. But her age was about the same as his, meaning, she also had full spirit power. A red light rose from Xiao Wu's body. Shrouded under the faint red light, her eyes began to turn red, ears slowly grew, standing up from the side of her head covered in soft white fur. Stature seemingly becoming a bit taller, a soft breath of spirit power seemingly undulated centering on her body. From underfoot rose a spirit ring unexpectedly with appearance as Tang San's. It too was a yellow 100-year spirit ring. Xiao Chen Yu exerted himself to clap his forehead at once. "Xiao Wu Ji, I serve. Hereafter you are our Nuoding Primary Spirit Master Academy's supreme sister. Everyone come, meet Xiao Wu Ji." A blue-silver grass 11th ranked tool spirit master was that fierce. This was a 12th ranked first ring battle spirit master, and also had a 100-year spirit ring as well. Xiao Chen Yu did not need to fight to know that he was not by any means Xiao Wu's match. Xiao Wu somewhat smugly looked at the higher-grade students before her bowing in salute, darting a glance at the dazed Tang San there. "Didn't you have some matters? Why haven't you left? You're permitted to have innate full spirit power, but not I." Tang San started from his thoughts, looking carefully at Xiao Wu, raising his hand to stroke her long soft ears, nodding. "Xiao Wu, So you really are a rabbit. The rabbit ears were the most sensitive, transforming to become the spirit. The effect similarly appeared all over Xiao Wu's body. The little girl's beautiful face suddenly had two large daubs of blushing. Raising her hand wanting to hit him, Tang San had already escaped like the wind. Not speaking of what reparations to make on Xiao Wu's side, after Tang San escaped the academy, his mind couldn't help but be carefree for a spell. Other than teacher's poison injury making him worry, everything else compared to what he imagined was glorious. Mysterious heaven skills cultivation problem was at long last resolved, and he also had this blue-silver grass binding ability. His actual strength had made great progress. Tang San believed he only must continuously make great efforts with cultivation, and his mysterious heaven skill would advance by leaps and bounds. In at most 10 years, he only must be able to enter mysterious heaven skills 5th realm, and so be considered somewhat accomplished. When arriving at that time, in mysterious heaven treasure record were recorded the majority of hidden weapon use abilities. Teacher did not say if this world had many spirit clan sects. Could he not establish his own Tang Sect afresh in this world? On Douluo continent, regardless of whether it was Heaven Du Empire or Star Luo Empire, in any city's spirit hall could be that city's symbolic structure. Tang San only randomly asked a passer-by, and successfully found the location of Spirit Hall. Just now helping the working students respond to the struggle had already delayed him for some time, and he still must return to bring teacher midday meal. Therefore Tang San used his fastest pace to run to Spirit Hall, not wanting to be delayed. Halt, little friend, this is Spirit Hall, you can't randomly rush. Tang San barely arrived at Spirit Hall, when he was stopped by the entrance guard. Nuoding City's Spirit Hall's location was an immense dome structure. Just the width of the front must exceed 100 meters, height reaching up to 20 meters, divided into 3 floors. The entire building was brown, and the emblem on the front gate only had one longsword. From Grandmaster's explanation, Tang San knew that an emblem with only one design meant that Nuoding City's Spirit Hall was a lowest rank Spirit Hall.